Squid Game, if you don't know already, is a Korean Netflix series released on the 17th of September 2021 that took the world by storm. It quickly became the first series to top daily charts in all 83 countries with Netflix streams. Squid Game tells a story about Sung Gi-hun, a gambling addict who is heavily in debt and out of desperation for money, got involved in a secret organization that runs these large underground battle royale survival type games for contestants to win large sums of money if they survive. While the idea of the premise isn't new, we've seen many movies and series in the past with battle royale-like premise such as, Battle Royale, Hunger Games, Alice in Borderlands, etc. I think what made Squid Game such a global sensation is the fact that it goes beyond just that. It's no secret that Squid Game is an allegory for capitalism, and the show doesn't try to hide it with its explicit imagery of a piggy bank filled with cash. And given that most of us live in a capitalist country, I think we're all able to relate to some of the themes and symbolisms in this series that draws parallels with our current society. So, I thought it would be interesting to rewatch Squid Games and spot as many of these symbolisms and themes, imageries, whatever, as possible that relates to capitalism. So the series opens with a black and white scene of a bunch of kids playing a children's game called Squid, or Squid Game. We're immediately shown that while there are simple rules around what is considered as winning and losing in this game, there's no rules on how the game is meant to be played, and what you are allowed and are not allowed to do. Anything seems to be fair game. One kid even goes as far as to tearing up another kid's singlet just to stop them from winning. It's pretty brutal. Much like in a capitalist society, often success or winning is what people care about and what they see. And sometimes some people are even willing to do whatever it takes just to achieve that success, even if it's at the cost of some pretty bad repercussions, much like, the torn up singlet. And after this intro, the story starts. I love how the first shot of the main story is a close-up shot of money, which nicely sets up the theme of capitalism for the entire series. Gambling is also a strong theme that runs throughout the entire series. Our protagonist is in debt because of his gambling issues, and we see him gambling in horse racing. And here he also plays this cardboard flippy game thing to win money. And of course, later on, for the majority of the series, everybody in the game is literally gambling away their life in order to win money. What's interesting here is that during the cardboard flippy game thing, after losing and being slapped several times, our protagonist finally wins, but his first reaction is to get revenge and slap the other guy back. And when presented with money, he seems to be quite underwhelmed. This might be revealing something about the people who are addicted to gambling. While they might be drawn into the game in the first place by money, what ultimately keeps them going is not necessarily the money they can get, but rather the satisfaction of winning. Once we get to the arena of the actual game, things become much more interesting. The imagery of all the workers in identical uniforms sitting behind monitors heavily resembles modern-day white-collar workers in an office sitting behind their computers in their cubicles. And just like a modern-day corporation, they're also being managed by someone higher up. Each worker is wearing a mask, which strips away their individuality and reduces their identity to their ranking, and the purpose they serve in the company. The contestants are also treated in a similar way. Each contestant are given a number on their uniform and was never referred to by their name. Once again, it strips away their individuality and reduces them to just numbers, much like horses in a horse race. All of these reminds me of Fight Club, where the narrator talks about how everything is a copy of a copy of a copy. The contestants are also reminded that they're here by choice and they can leave anytime they want, but in reality, every contestant that's been selected to play this game are in positions where they don't really have a choice anymore. They're heavily in debt and pretty much have no way out of their lives. When one of the contestants asks how much they'll get paid if they win the games, a ray of golden light shines down from the ceiling as the contestant watch a giant piggy bank slowly descends above their heads. This is probably the most on-the-nose symbolism for capitalism in this entire series. The animal pig has been used throughout history as a symbol for capitalism, as they represent greed, and often they take more than they need. A good example of this is in George Orwell's 1945 satirical allegorical novella Animal Farm. Piggy banks are also used for saving, or in fancy words, accumulating capital. So once again, capitalism. And finally, the golden light just adds a cherry on top, because, obviously gold is valuable, so it relates to money and wealth, you get the point. The contestants are then told to line up and sign contracts for entering the game, and they're then proceeded to take headshots one by one, much like how one would sign a contract when they start working for a company and also are taken away to take photo ID. The way the hallways are designed is just absolutely incredible. I do feel like there's got to be some sort of meaning and intention behind the pastel-colored maze-like walkway, but I guess with my limited knowledge, I can't seem to figure out what it means. All I can say is that it kind of reminds me of MC Escher's work, specifically the one named Relativity and Convex and Concave. So please let me know in the comments below if you have any idea or interpretation as to what this design might symbolize. Once again, going back to the gold lighting thing, the frontman's office is pretty much covered in a warm golden looking lighting. We also see a chandelier, whiskey, leather couch, and basically the point is that the office is probably really expensive. Now into the first game they play, Red Light, Green Light. While this is a children's game, I think there is a deeper meaning, especially given the context of the series and the brutal consequences if one were to lose this game. In order to win, each contestant must continue going forward, disregarding those around them who are literally being shot to death. Stopping and helping others are not exactly beneficial, and the best strategy is by hiding behind someone so that your mistakes are not detected. This game could be allegorical to climbing the corporate ladder in our modern day society, where in order to reach success, one can only look out for themselves. There's no room for you to stop and help those next to you without running the risk of being dragged down as well. And sometimes, you even have to let other person take the fall for your mistakes. After the game, the contestants are given a chance to take a vote on whether or not they want to continue playing the game or leave the arena. Rather than voting anonymously and simultaneously, each contestant voted one after another. While in theory, if every player's preferences are clear and does not deviate based on the previous player's vote, this method will end up with the same result as voting simultaneously. However, in reality, one's actions can be affected by those who have voted before them, which makes this type of voting much less accurate when it comes to representing what the people actually want. Furthermore, in the context of this scene, player 1 was the last one to vote, and given that all the players before him, half of them voted for leaving the game, half of them voted for continuing playing, player 1 essentially have the deciding vote here. I might be reading a little too much into this one, but I feel like this could be the show trying to convey the message that in our democratic society, while we feel like our voices and opinion matter, in the end it still comes down to that one or two people with power who are really making the call. I think this message becomes even more bleak after knowing that the old man is actually the host of the game and he's actually super rich. Because I think it just shows that he made these people feel like they had a choice, but in the end he's still the one making the calls. After being released from the game, we see each character return to their miserable lives, and I think the most notable one is Ali. He doesn't seem like someone who is in debt due to gambling problems or addiction. It seems that the only reason he is in debt is because he's an immigrant and is being exploited by his boss, who isn't paying them despite the fact that the company is actually making money. While personally, I've been lucky enough to have never been financially exploited by my employees, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised, and to be honest, I'm fairly certain that shit like this actually happens in our world, which is just sad. It really shows that while some of these people got where they are because of their own bad decisions and vices, there are others who are in their unfortunate circumstances as a result of the corruption of the system. Just before the second game starts, we see that one of the contestants got a secret note hidden in his bread, which gives him a hint as to what the next game is going to be. We later learn that this guy is actually a doctor or surgeon of some sort and is helping the guards carve out organs from dead contestants to sell on the black market. And having this connection to the guards obviously gave him an unfair advantage despite the fact that the game is supposed to be fair for all contestants. And once again, much like the corporate world, where the climb to the top of our capitalist society is supposedly fair for everyone and is supposed to be based on their individual merits, in reality that isn't always the case. For people who have connections to those in power will inevitably have an unfair advantage over others. Much like the age-old saying, it's not about what you know, but who you know. The second game is the famous candy carving game. Even those who haven't seen Squid Games will know about this one from all the memes floating around the internet. I think this game really hones in on the idea of luck, and the fact that, well, it'll just never be fair for everyone. The contestants are told to blindly choose a shape, before knowing that they need to carve that shape out from a sheet of candy, and obviously some shapes are easier than others. And for those who chose the triangle will have gained an unfair advantage over others just by sheer luck. So if we relate this back to the fact that the series is an allegory for capitalism, the show is essentially telling us that while our individual merits and hard work can play a part in our success, there will always be an element of luck involved, which can play a much bigger role than we realize in the success or failure of one's journey. After this candy carving game, we have another really interesting scene. Everyone is lining up to get a drink and an egg, and we see that the group with this super intimidating guy, he was not happy with what they got, so they pushed in line to get seconds, which resulted in some people missing out on their meal. And this sparked a conflict and ended up with somebody being killed by this big intimidating guy. However, this big scary guy who killed the person was not punished. The guards kind of just let it happen, and they just came in and cleaned up the corpse afterwards. This scene is so incredible at creating tension, as we the audience realize that if this type of behavior is considered as fair game, people are gonna start killing others to speed up the elimination process, and we know that shit's gonna go down the moment lights are turned off. Furthermore, this once again shows how unfair the game can be. In this case, those who are physically stronger and care less about morals and ethics will have a huge advantage over those who are weaker. Could this be referring to the fact that in our society, those who walk the line between good and bad, or even those who are more willing to cross the line, are often rewarded rather than punished? I mean, that's definitely something to think about. This type of unfairness that greatly favors those with physical strength is more exemplified in the third game, Tug of War, where the teams with stronger players will just have an advantage over those with women and elderly players. Furthermore, one of the major differences between this game and the previous games is that this time, half of all the players are guaranteed to be eliminated, just given the nature of the game, since in every game of Tug of War, one side will win while the other side will lose. And here, those who lose will die. I think this game is perhaps drawing our attention towards a highly competitive nature in our modern day capitalist society, where in many situations, it's often a zero-sum game. There's no scenario where everyone can win. This means that in order to survive, or in order to win, people are often pushed to tap into a darker, more animalistic side of humanity, since it's either kill or be killed. I know so far we've only covered 4 episodes of this series, but I'm just gonna wrap up the video now, just in case it gets too long. Please let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed this video and would like to see a part 2 where I cover the second half of the series. But in the meantime, go enjoy your movies.